On this episode of When Does It End? Chris and Tori will take a deep dive into the differences between gender identity, sexuality, and gender expression. As we all know, these three different things lie on a spectrum, and it is important to view people in the way that they desire to be viewed. Join us as we discuss this with our guests and learn what respecting their P really means. What's up? What's up? What's up? It's Chris and Tori Cooper, and we're bringing you another trend-setting, another thought-provoking episode of When Does It End? And today's episode is going to be a bit different from our past episodes. So Tori and I are going to take a back seat, and we're going to allow some amazing co-hosts to talk about everything within their lives that relates to around trans experience and gender nonconformity. As we know, people of trans experience, people who live a gender nonconforming lifestyle, a lot of times never get the opportunity to share their narratives. They never get the opportunities to be heard. And so me and Tori are adamant in elevating the voices of people most impacted by stigma, most impacted by discrimination, and furthermore, most affected by the HIV epidemic in today's world. So today, you will get a lot of nuances, you will be getting a lot of energy, and a lot of life lessons that you can use to figure out how you can become an advocate for this community. Tori, take it away.
So welcome all our kin folks, all our skin folks, and all folks. We really are excited to have you all here yet again. Chris and I are honored because we have an amazing group of folks, and we're actually not going to talk too much because we want to give all the time to the folks who are here who are subject matter experts in their own lives. In our last watch party segment, we did a deep dive into some of the differences between gender identity, between sexuality, and also gender expression. And as we all know, these three different ideas lie on a really wide spectrum. And it's really important to view people in the way that they want to be viewed. With that being said, why is it necessary to use the correct pronouns when identifying people? Simply because it's the right thing to do. That's why. Chris?
The P in respect by P can be whatever you want it to be. For some, the P is pronouns, and for others still, the P could simply mean principles or point of view, and in Tori's case, paycheck, okay?
Paycheck!
Whomever, whatsoever, or whithersoever, as my bishop would say, your P is today. We will talk about putting some respect on it, okay? But before we talk about P's and before I share my P, I would like to introduce you to our amazing co-host for the day. So if you could, please introduce yourself, share your pronouns, where you stay, and what you do.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Zapiris Ebony. I am originally from Houston, Texas. I now currently reside in Dallas, Texas. A lot of y'all may know me from the hit TV show HBO Max's Legendary. I was on season 1. Here in my community, I am an activist. I also host Vogue Nights here at Marty's Live. And my pronouns are all of the above. In ballroom terms, they mean that I'm open to all. You know, he, she, them, it. You can't get it wrong with me.
Thank you. So glad to have you here, Paris. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Queen Hatcher-Johnson. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm employed at Positive Impact Health Center as the Gender Inclusive Program Manager. I am a melanated woman who benefits from my transgender identity. I do not use pronouns. Queen explains everything.
It's the Queen for me. Who's next?
Thank you so much. My name is Kayla Moore. I am a wellness coordinator here in Oakland, California for the Oakland LGBTQ Community Center. My pronouns are she, her, queen, and all the above. And like Miss Queen Hatcher said earlier, that's what it is. I don't have to say anything more. You see it, I feel it, I exude it. So that's what it is.
Baby, she said, it is me and I am it. Sebastian, let's take us home.
Love the confidence. Thank y'all so much for having me be a part of this amazing panel of great spirited folks. My name is Sebastian, or Cy Smith. Cy for short. My pronouns are he, him, and king as well. Let's not leave out that part. The 9 to 5, what pays the bill, we're going back to that paycheck, because I am the national organizer at the National Center for Transgender Equality. Now, after 5 and sometime before 5 too, because we know as advocates, our work never ends. I do a lot of work with grassroots organizations, with folks down at the ground level in our community. And I'm so extremely happy to be here with folks. I am currently sitting on Muscogee Creek People's land. And for those that don't know, that is Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for those amazing introductions. I'm so overjoyed and excited to be able to share space with such amazing people. And you know what we're finna do? We're finna jump right into it. So earlier I told you that I was gonna share with y'all what my piece stood for. And so for me, my piece stands for the power of presence. I believe there's something to be said about the power that you have just by showing up, about being present and being authentically as yourself. So when people see me, the piece that I want them to understand is that Chris Walker is here. Chris Walker is here to make a stand, and Chris Walker is here to be impactful, okay? So if you could, please unmute yourselves in this order: Zaparis, Queen, Kayla, and Sebastian, and tell the people and us, what does your P represent?
My P is going to represent respect my pronouns with an S, okay? I say that because being gender nonconforming, a lot of times people do kind of put me inside of one box. They like to just label me as, the she's and the girls. And it's so much more to me than just that one side. So respect all of who I am.
The P for me represent persistence, presence, my point of view, and I would say, lastly, stop pretending. Stop pretending. Yeah.
Well, I would say respect my patience. I am a woman that comes from a background where there are certain things that wasn't given to me. Society has torn a lot of things away from me. Being a Black African-American queen, there were things that wasn't given to me. I didn't have the opportunity to have the proper education that a lot of people have. There were a lot of times where my role was different from society and how it looked. And I had to understand where I was going, and it took patience and time for me to evolve into the woman that I am, the queen that you see sitting here before you. This wasn't something that happened overnight. The patience that I put into myself, the time and the perseverance for me to be here, to sit here and to sit upon this panel is what took me there. So I would say respect my patience.
So I think what you all have effectively done is created an affirmation for us all, right? There is a list of words, and then until I was asked the question, I didn't realize were things that I, attributes that I want people to respect about me: my perseverance, my purpose, my passion, my point of view, all the things that other folks have said. For me, my presence is the many intersectional things that I am is so important to me, how I'm perceived when I show up in a space. Because I don't bring just myself. I represent so many other communities, so many marginalized communities when I come into spaces. So it's so important how I'm perceived in my presence when I'm in spaces. So respect my presence, 100%. And all of the other things, all of those other amazing P words that I didn't know until now, is actually, we've turned that into an affirmation.
Right. And so, and Sebastian, to your point, that was the point. I wanted us to be able to showcase our collective power, right? Because individually, we may have our own individual P's, how we want to identify ourselves and how we want to be seen, but collectively, through those affirmations, we showcase power, a coordinated front. And that's what it was about. Thank y'all for sharing, and thank y'all for being vulnerable in that moment. Tori, it's on you.
I have two P's that I really want folks to pay attention to that you must respect with me, and I empower you all to employ them as well. And the first one is paycheck. I created the title of a health and equity consultant because it's important to understand that as trans people, non-binary people, however it is that you go as Black people, that there are folks, if you're not white, cisgender, heterosexual, and of a male identified and of a certain socioeconomic status, you're going to have many more problems in society. And for those of us who have who are much, much further away from that fake archetype of perfection, it's important to understand that there will be folks who won't pay you properly. So respect my paycheck. Pay me for being a subject matter expert in Black people and trans people and womanhood and a whole bunch of other areas. And then also respect my principles. And why that's so important is because we all navigate life. We bring our own experiences into who we are. As trans people, we have had a fortunate opportunity to create for people the person who we want them to see in a way that our cis peers perhaps didn't have. And so respect my principles means understand that my life is mine, even if you don't understand it. It also means to all of those different things that you all talked about, your patience, your pronouns, your presence. I heard presence twice. All of those different things, all of the communities that we represent, and the principles that you bring into the conversation, because we're all not going to think the same about every single title, and we're not going to respond to these questions the same way. It doesn't invalidate anybody's experiences, and that's really, really important. So we know that trans and non-binary people encounter a number of barriers when it comes to healthcare. So I'd be interested in hearing from each of you. How does a person's gender identity impact their HIV care or the access to HIV prevention care? And here's some things to think about. Think about PrEP and access to PrEP and how it's meted out. Think about getting to viral suppression for folks who already have an HIV diagnosis. Think about hormonal therapy for folks who want it. Think about affirming providers. How do we know trans and non-binary people encounter a number of different barriers. So how does gender identity impact their care?
From my own experience, I feel as though a lot of what impacts gender non-conforming and people of trans experience is the lack thereof of confidence and of acceptance. A lot of it stems from not being knowledgeable, and then on top of that, we're not having enough conversations. So the lack thereof in certain communities of people like us, people for us, is one barrier. Another thing is, people are still not educated as far as the depth of who we are and what we represent. Beyond this black skin and beyond my masculine look, there's more to me. You know what I'm saying? And in most cases, people reject what they don't understand. So a lot of those issues tie into, a lot of what people like me and people like us sitting here on this panel have to basically, barriers that we have to deal with in order to get, PrEP and prevention and all those type of things.
The barriers to care with dead naming, that will keep people out of care automatically. And I hate when people say, what's your preferred name? My preferred name is the name that I told you who I am. I am who I say I am. And I don't have a preference, because the preference entails that you're choosing one thing over the other. I am who I am. I told you who I am. This is who I am. Pronouns, misgendering people. Safety. Is your place safe? Is it in a safe location? Transportation, is that safe for them? Because people think that public transportation is safe. It is not safe for people of trans experience. There are so many things. The knowledge of holistic care. Are you holistically aware of what this transgender identity or gender nonconforming person before you? Are you totally aware of this whole person? The individual. Do you know what it took for this person? Have you had a person-to-person conversation prior to a provider conversation? Let's get to know each other. Maybe I could teach you some things. That way you can provide, I hate to say competent care, but you can provide healthier services to other people who come into your building. You don't dead name them. You don't misgender them. You don't make assumptions about body parts, what body parts we use or we don't use. And the importance of having these conversations.
I definitely agree with both of you all. I think that it's important for us to be knowledgeable and understand what we are looking for, what we're striving for. I think being culturally competent in a lot of things is very important when it goes to seeking out healthcare. You hit so much on the money, Queen, about having holistic care available for individuals who don't know that. And a lot of times for being a Black individual who's seeking out healthcare for, let's say, a population who doesn't necessarily have access to that or don't even understand the necessary steps to get to that point. You have to do a lot of footwork. And sometimes individuals who are of trans experience may not have the mental capacity to take on that task because of their maybe background of them not having the proper education to be able to read or write. Sometimes you need assistance. And what I felt was great, what I've seen and what I've done in my work of doing this is actually being an advocate for my sisters and brothers who are of trans experience, who may not understand the process, who may not understand to go out and what they're looking for as far as to getting care for HIV or hormonal care, or accessing a provider who do know how to have affirming care. I think that we definitely need to do the footwork. I think that having somebody who can understand you and actually be able to articulate and have a conversation with a provider who may not be able to see you as who you are is very important, because, you know, sometimes we miss out on getting that proper care because we just so ready to hop on the bandwagon of finding, oh, well, this is where my insurance is taken and this is where I'm at, but not actually understanding that there are more people that you can tunnel into to finding who fits you and who is there for you. We may not always see the proper person because of the shade of our skin, but there are a lot of great allies out here who definitely empathize with what's going on in our lives and want to see change. So I think that we definitely have to do the work to actually tone in on what we want as pertaining to our care.
I really think everyone has done an amazing job of talking about just how so many different things are impacted by gender identity, or impacted by how we navigate our healthcare. You know, how we it impacts just about everything that we do in our lives. You know, so when we're thinking about the different subjects here, and I'm going to talk a lot of stuff specific to the demographic of folks that I represent, which is many things, but namely assigned female at birth, trans male, right? So we often don't talk about trans men and trans men. Just sexual education, sexual knowledge. We don't talk about it at all. It's almost deemed as taboo. And in that silence, there are trans men who are suffering. There are trans men who are not, their plight is not being seen. They're, you know, one of the first things that jumps out to me when we're talking about access to PrEP, there's no real research about PrEP and how the different forms affect those of us that were assigned female at birth. So it puts out a false narrative among community that is not for us, that there's no medication to protect us, because the only thing that we hear is that there's no research, or our providers are not listening to, and that's part of kind of the affirming care, is not listening to us when we come in and say, this is what I need. And a lot of us have had, I'm sure many of us have had this experience, but we've had to go in and educate our doctors ourselves. Well, we have then become the educator of our doctors. You know, so with trans men, you know, I don't want to say erasure, because that's not the right word, but the invisibility piece there is just, it's something that we cannot continue to not talk about. And that means that trans men who are also men who sleep with men, because we understand how sexuality and identity and expression are all different things. So people can be many things. So there are trans men who are also men who sleep with men who are also at a greater risk. So how do we have talks with that particular demographic about safety, prevention, health positive sex? Because we want folks to have sex. We're not saying don't have sex. We're just saying we want it to be, you know, this is how we keep each other healthy. You know, but we're not having those conversations amongst trans men in particular. So, you know, those are some of the things that I kind of thought of as we're talking about barriers around, like the lack of education, even about viral suppression. There are cis communities that don't know nothing about PrEP, don't know what viral suppression is. I can't even count actually on my hands how many times I've had to have a conversation about to a straight person what PrEP is. So there's a lack of knowledge in other places too.
What you just mentioned, Sebastian, is really, really important. That there's actually a commercial that's on television. We're not going to say the name of the product, but there's a commercial that's on television, and it's for the prevention of HIV to reduce the risk of infection. But it clearly says on there that this medicine has not been treated on people assigned female at birth, which leaves out a lot of folks who could benefit from that type of prevention. And so it's important to understand that as trans people who are sexual and who have sex, and we're also going to use real words. You don't get HIV from sleeping with somebody. You get HIV from having sex with somebody who has a detectable viral load. So we're going to use real words, brother. And so it's important to understand that. And so we need to make sure that trans people are aware that PrEP exists and that it works when you use it properly. All right. So while we're here, Queen, tell us a little bit about what's undetectable, how these barriers that trans people are experiencing, how they impact a person of trans experience who's diagnosed with HIV from getting the viral suppression.
So thank you for that question. How this impacts someone's, how it keeps somebody from getting to viral suppression is, okay, so they come to the appointment, they get tested, they get diagnosed with HIV, then they get into care. And so that first visit was quite pleasant, you know. They came because they knew something wasn't right, or they wanted to know something. So they leave with the information. They come back to the second visit, and at the door, they're misgendered. It took a lot for them, for one, to get up out of bed to get to that appointment, you know, because the number one thing that resonates in my mind is getting up, thinking about my path to my doctor's appointment. How do I get there? If I'm taking public transportation, so that means that I would have to either walk to a bus stop or a train station. That's a safety precaution for me. I don't feel safe walking. And then if I do successfully get on the bus or the train, and I'm getting off, or even on the train, because there have been violence seen on the train, violent incidents on the train, getting off, walking to the doctor's appointment, the doctor's office. That's enough. So safety. So, and then you get there after all of this, you walking in with all of this on your shoulder, and the person sitting behind the desk has a very derogatory demeanor, and they welcome you with either, if they don't dead name you, then they misgender you, or they do both. So now you're sitting here, you're waiting because you know you need service. Then the person from the back comes out and they do the same thing. They dead name you and misgender you. So now you're just carrying the weight of the world on you. Me, myself personally, once I've been dead named 2 times, can I use the restroom? I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I don't feel safe. It's time for me. That thing, fight or flight. I'm tired of fighting, so I'm going to flee. I'm going to flee. I'm going to leave. I am going to leave, not taking into consideration my own health at this time. What resonates in my mind at that time is get to a safe place where I feel safe and I feel I can embody my authentic self, because nobody else is embodying my authentic self.
And what people don't understand, that misgendering is not just about respect, it's also about safety. Thank you for bringing that into the conversation. Thank you. That was wonderful. That's why we love y'all. Go ahead, Chris. We could talk all day about this.
That was everything for me. And this also triggers like my next question. And Tori, you talked about like an element of safety, right? And so when I think about safety, and from the perspective of working with providers in the past, I've seen how providers have not treated people who have dealt with people not from a whole person point of view. They saw clientele, and especially people of trans experience, as just another number, or it's just another criteria in order to hit a grant. You know, so I'm going to ask you all, how important is it to treat the whole person when providing care to trans and gender non-conforming people?
All right, so it's very important, like extremely important. There's no level of explaining how important it is to make sure that you are treating the whole person, like especially coming from a gender non-conforming point of view and standpoint. As far as when you talk about making sure that these people who are here to serve us are actually serving all of us and not a piece of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact of the matter is, you know, like you just said, Chris, we have certain people who really don't care. All they care about is what they're gonna gain, which is the numbers, which is the, you know, X, Y, and Z, what the paperwork looks like, instead of being about and caring about our community. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, safety, it ties back into that as well. If we're supposed to be for our people, and we're supposed to be educating, we're supposed to be doing everything in our power to make sure that this, you know, that we're ending this epidemic, then everything that we're supposed to be doing is supposed to be coming from a sense of safety, of a sense of actually caring all around about that person, not just about looking at that person as a number. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, word travels faster than anything. You know, so if I go into a place and I'm seeking prevention, I'm seeking X, Y, and Z, and you rub me the wrong way, what do you think that I'm gonna go and, you know, educate everybody else about? Because that's how this whole thing goes. And then not only that, now you're starting a whole trend to where, you know, the people that have the resources to provide for our community now have a bad name because you're not caring about our people. You know, you're not looking at them as people, you're looking at them as numbers. And that too ties into the last question. Like, that's another barrier that we face in our community.
So I'm glad that you said that, Paris, because it's a lot. So holistic care for me. I'm the person, I've learned to advocate for myself, to be an advocate for myself in any setting, especially a provider visit. So I'll walk in and they'll say, so they'll ask, what body modifications do you have? Listen, I got breasts, I got a penis, and a rectum. And we're gonna address all of this. We're gonna talk about, I might need a mammogram, I need a colonoscopy, there's a lot of things that I need. We're not going to denounce any part of me. What body parts do I use when having sex? All of them. Whatever the situation calls for, you know, that's just like in a relationship. If I can't be holistic, I didn't become my authentic self, not to be authentic to myself. So I'm going to be authentic to myself, and I'm going to receive all authentic, holistic care come hell or high water, or I won't be back. And I will, that word of mouth, tell the children, I will tell the children the truth.
No, I totally agree with you, Queen. And Paris, I think that for me, it's different, and for that being said, it's because a lot of times you do have individuals who does have a hard time and challenges finding, you know, healthcare, or just individuals going into seeking that. And I know a lot of times, you know, going to a doctor, somebody is, you know, calling your dead name or using, you know, pronouns that, you know, you clearly know that I don't go by. You do not see all this extravagant in front of you, and you seeing that this is what it is, you know? So for me, I have to really sit back, and I use a different method in life. And so I know that there's certain places that I can sit because I have that privilege to do so. But if there is a place where I can't go and I can't get the care that I need because of how I'm presented or how my paperwork is perceived, that's an issue. And that's a really, really big issue for me, because that means I'm not going to get the care that I need to get here. And that means that that's another day that something could be going on that I don't have time to sit here and get cleared for, because I'm sitting here dealing with y'all worried about what the hell is between my legs. That's not the issue right now. The issue at hand is my health, my dignity, and me being here, because I didn't have to come here. I don't have to come here. I could sit here and make that choice and just ride away and just give up on everything, but I choose to come because I care about my health. And if you're saying you empathize with me and you care about me and my health, then you should take the time out to learn and invest in your patients. I think that's important. I think that, yes, it is all about your paycheck. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about my money. I'm all about that dollar bill. But then I have to take back and sit back and, like, the work that I'm doing is greater and it's bigger than me. You know, it's bigger than me, because my little sister who is going through transition is seeing me and seeing my growth, and she's seeing, like, damn, I want to do what she did, what she do, what is her purpose, and I don't never want to steer nobody wrong. I always want to give them the right information. And if I could sit here and do my footwork to make it just a little bit easier for my sister or my brother down the line and give them connections to the people that I know, then I'm willing to do so, you know. And that took a lot of time and patience for me to build that. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, don't get me to preach up in here, but patience is a virtue because it takes so much time, like you said, Queen, to get up out of the bed, to look at myself in the morning, to glue down my wig, to put on my lashes, to scoop these girls up so they could be as high as 9 lines, balloons. So me to sit there and to feel like that I could present myself and the confident in the woman that I am to get the care that I need. But there might be a day where I don't want to put that damn wig on. I might have a whole beard on. You might get when I'm talking to you, but don't shy away from me. Understand my process, that I'm here, and understand that I'm coming, like you said, to get the holistic care, to make sure that I'm getting everything from my spiritual, my emotional, to my finances, to my well-being. I need all of that. And I need to make sure that I can understand that I'm coming here. There's no judgment. There should be transparency all throughout. And you should be culturally competent to know that whatever woman stands in front of you, you should be able to deal with it, no issues, no problem. Just help me. I need help.
Can we not just be real and say that this should be a practice for all folks? Like, why is it that trans and non-binary and gender non-conforming folks care got to look so different than straight and cis people care? Why do we have to continue to talk about this? And this is what you got one job, and your one job is to individualize my care and make it holistic. Understand that trans people are not just trans people. We're more than that. We're trans people that may have diabetes, that may have high blood pressure, that may have coexisting medical conditions, that may also have or living with HIV. Other things that are going on with us that we have to have a safe environment and feel affirmed enough to even get to that. Because not everything for me when I go to the doctor is about my hormones. I'm good on my hormones. If nothing else, trans people are gonna be good on their hormones, even if they don't get them from a prescribed doctor. Let's just be honest and real. We're gonna get what we need. And that's what we're talking about. Why do we even have to circumvent the system to get what we need when you got the key? When you are gatekeeping the access to the care that we need, you got the key because of some personal prejudice you got against the whole community. Let's be real. We're navigating a system that ain't set up for us, y'all. We're navigating through a system that is not set up for us. And it includes our health care. It includes how we show up. Why does trans and non-binary gotta impact every single medical judgment? I go to the heart doctor, and of course I gotta take my shirt off. I'm privileged enough to have had to be post-top surgery. You see scars on my chest. Why even ask the question? Is it pertinent to why you doing this EKG on my chest? Let me know if my top surgery, if you think they cut something loose around my heart, and that's what it is, then tell me that. But why am I at the dentist as well having a conversation about me being trans, about my gender marker not matching how I present? These are the reasons, y'all, trans people don't show up. Gender non-conforming people don't go to the doctor, don't show up, because there are not enough affirming settings like that for us. So it's extremely important for all of us, straight, gay, lesbian, trans people, for human beings, to seek out doctors, physicians that are healthcare providers who have good bedside service and can also treat you holistically from the top of your head down to the soles of your feet and everything in between.
Okay, so after that round of questions, I have another P to add, and my P stands for preach, because y'all are definitely preaching to the people. And here at the Church of P, we advocate for everybody's P, and we will be taking an offering after the benediction, okay? So make sure you like, subscribe, share. All right, because we can help you find your P too. All right, so moving on. That was amazing. Oh my God, I'm over here shaking. So talking about holistic forms of care and talking about seeing people as people, right? Just seeing people authentically in the way they want to be seen. Let's talk about stigma. And I want to talk about internal stigma, and primarily internal stigma that people of trans experience face within the LGBTQ community, right? So my next question is going to be, we all know that stigma exists within the LGBTQ plus community, but how has stigma from LGBTQ folk impacted you as a person of trans or gender non-conforming experience?
Ooh, Let me tell you something. It ain't easy being easy, baby. You know what's so ironic about this question is that you would think that a community that has been, you know, so suppressed and so traumatized would not continue the cycle with our own people. But in the world we live in today, that's not realistic. You know what I'm saying? From my own personal experience, stigma has led me to be who I am today. And let me break that down for y'all, for y'all to understand what I mean. When I first came out into the gay scene, I didn't know anything beyond being gay. All I knew was that I like boys. Being more educated and the more years that I spent upon the scene, I started to figure out more things about myself, that I'm more than just a gay Black male, that I am gender nonconforming, you know, that I don't like to be defined by just one thing. I'm a multitude of things. So in realizing that and accepting that about myself, I had to build an era of confidence, you know, because at the end of the day, I may be walking down the street up in drags, and then, you know, some other person in the community want to be disrespectful and call me a nigga. Well, but then if the heterosexual community do it to us, are we ready to fight? It makes no sense, you know what I'm saying? So me having to deal with that type of stigma and having to endure that from my community built me a wall of self-confidence, because at the end of the day, I am gender non-conforming. If you don't understand that, I can help you understand it, because guess what? By you misgendering me while I'm in another facade of myself, that doesn't bother me. But let me educate you on what not to do to the next person. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody isn't like me. Everybody hasn't found themselves yet. And that's the beauty that I love of being gender non-conforming, because I can be whoever I want to be, whenever I want to be. And at the end of the day, I'm going to demand that you respect that from me. And if you don't respect that, I'm going to educate you so that you respect the next person that you encounter. So that's how, you know, stigma from our community has affected me.
I love that. I love it. So stigma within the community. Let's start with the LGBT. Let's start with the alphabet. Because first of all, the L shouldn't be first, the T should be first. We can start there. We really should start there. If you start at the top, you can work your way on down. We can dissect all of this. And then so we'll start with the T. Then we'll take on this heteronormativity that we in the community are trying to project on to each other. I don't want any of it. I'm not heteronormative. I didn't, like I said before, I didn't become my authentic self, not to be authentic to myself. So the community can take a backseat, because I don't need any level of passability, or I don't need to check. I don't care who don't believe it, I believe it. That's all that matters to me. And the people who I have sex with, they believe it enough to have sex with me long enough, and if they leave after that, so be it. I got what I want, you got what you want, sayonara. Yeah, the stigma within the community, if we stop taking on these heteronormative roles, if we stop trying to be heteronormative people, because if there would be no need for the TLGB at all. If we were all heteronormative, there wouldn't be two different communities or whatever, just see each other as human. But within the community, there's a whole lot of stigma. There's a whole lot of, I don't even know. It's the cruelest place to come from. That's all I can say, because they want you to believe something that they don't believe.
I think for me, for the time that I've been doing this work, it has been challenging, but rewarding as being more educational. Being a Black trans woman working in California, there are a lot of things for me, and I agree to a certain extent with you, Queen, when it comes to, you know, just being your authentic self, you know, but for me, I know that I'm in my brain, I'm old fashioned. And so when I was coming up in the world, you know, at that time, things were, you know, like you said, have more of a heterosexual normative where, you know, like, okay, you are the woman, this is your role, you play your part, you play your place, and this is what it is. You know, nowadays you can be so creative in how you express yourself with your affirmations and how you present yourself and your pronouns. And I know a lot of times this generation are still looking for acceptances, and particularly with trans. I could just speak for myself, when me being a woman in a trans experience, that it took a while for me to accept myself in the LGBT community, Q community, because I always lived a stealth kind of life. So I never really put myself, and if for individuals who don't know what stealth is kind of just living like straight. Nobody really knows, your identity until I presented to them. So I was able to pass a lot through what I went through. And it wasn't until I took a step back and started realizing that as I got older, that the community that I was so afraid to be a part of is the one community that was there to open me with gracious arms. And so when I started realizing that this is where my calling is, I start reframing myself for stepping outside of living a heterosexual norm to being more open to being standing in my trans shoes and saying, no, I'm trans and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to sit here and have to scream into the up highs that I'm trans. But if you ask me that question, I don't have a problem. If you do know, I don't have a problem. It's not something I have to worry about. But on the contrary, my safety comes first. And so I have to be cognizant of what goes around and how words is being conveyed, because people are still crazy in this world and they just come from any walks of life. So having that, I had to really refrain from a lot of things. But from just getting the narrative from the community, how the community helped me. The community has always been very challenging when it comes to accessing health care and getting help from the community. But if you still, like I said, have patience and do the work and do your footwork, you can find places that are really out here to help you, resources that are out here to help you, people that support you, people that want to see you succeed. Like, I wouldn't be sitting on this line right now if I didn't have a community that understood who I was, my growth and my worth, to be able to sit here and present and talk about my personal beings of what's going on. So, it's a 50-50. I'm not going to say that it's always going to be great when it comes to our community, because our community still is growing, and particularly the Black LGBTQ community, because we still have a lot of stigma that has been suppressed for hundreds of years. This is not just for LGBT. This goes back to our grassroots. Like, a lot of things, like not even being able to go to the doctor because we don't feel comfortable enough to be in. And this don't have nothing to do with your dead name. This is just being able to access care. That stigma comes from your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your grandfather, and them. So having to understand how to break that and ask for help and ask for things, because it wasn't something that was granted for us. It's something I think that it's going to take time for us to get out of. But we will get there. It just takes time. And we do have to somehow, rely on some of these resources, because I hate to say, if it wasn't for some of these resources that were given to us now by the LGBTQ community, my T-self wouldn't have some of the blessings that I have. So, it's a 50-50 call from my end.
Kayla said something too that plays a part in all of these questions and how we navigate all this stuff on these things is culture, right? Culturally, there are some things that are ingrained in us, and just some ways that we navigate through all of things. No matter what your trans or your gender identity, no matter what your gender identity is, if you're Black, you attack things this way. And we do that culturally across wherever we are. So some things, definitely are impacted by our culture as well. But as it relates to stigma within the community, nobody wants to be other. Nobody wants to feel other. And that's what it feels like, right? And in my example is kind of on the flip of Kayla's, is that coming from a person that was just is a part of the community, came from the community. I, for many years of my life, I identified as a masculine identified person that was signed female at birth. And that was the majority of my life. And then once I transitioned, and then I had the language to put to who I was, and then I'm getting stigma from outside the community. And I'm getting pushed out of the community from community folks. It feels other. It feels like you are now not a part. Now that may be a lack of understanding or education there's a barrier between us all. That may be what that is that you know, the LG and the B may feel like you have traded this privilege of passing for those of us who choose to do so, because not all of us choose to pass, and that's okay. That is very valid. But they may think that we have traded some form of comfort that they don't get to enjoy. But that's not the truth. And we know that as trans and non-binary folks, we know that this is not oppression Olympics. We know that there's some nuances to all of the things that we struggle, right? So it feels othered. Hell, they booed Sylvia Rivera at the Stonewall riot. The community booed the advocates that are on the front line. So it happens. And often, I cannot go without saying this, often, guess who's at the front line of these marches? Guess who's at the front line of the gay rights movement? Guess who was there? Guess who's gonna be at the front line of all these voting rallies that's coming out? Guess who's at the front line of all fighting for all these anti-trans legislation that's coming down on our youth? Trans people. And that's not to invalidate my lesbian, gay, and bisexual queer brothers and sisters, but that's to say that we come from fighting. We've had to fight for so much, and to feel like the very folk that how y'all think marriage equality got through? How do y'all think marriage equality, who you think turned this state Georgia blue? Y'all, again, if we continue to put ourselves in those boxes and we're doing exactly what the enemy wants us to do, and that's find more reason to separate ourselves than to be as one community, to be as together as one people, because we all come from the same, struggle, the same background. We are indeed one people, for sure. So the stigma we have to find a way to address it, because it's unfortunate, because we're all fighting for the same end goal.
So before we go to the next question with Chris, I just want to take a quick moment. So I noticed, Paris, that one of your pronouns is it.
So ironically, the it came from when I started my job at Chewy. They are very much so inclusive company. That's what I really love about it. The very first day they asked us to put our pronouns on our marker board, and one of our instructor was like, y'all put down our pronouns: he, him, her, she, it. And I stopped to think, and I was like, it. Well, it goes back to what I was explaining to you about my own personal experience. A lot of times people are not educated on about what a gender non-conforming, or what that means, or what that looks like, right? So to play it safe, I'm open to also, there are no mistakes. You know what I'm saying? So it isn't disrespectful to me. It could be your form of, you just don't know. You know what I'm saying? Everything is a safety zone. I put that out there as a safety net for all people, because at the end of the day, I'm not easily offended. I'm very much so assured of myself, very much so confident in myself. And like I said earlier, in educating people, this allows them, a free range of things to choose from. Like, respect all of me, not just one piece of me. And if it is how you can identify and understand me, then go ahead.
Thank you. That is your personal, see, there's another P. That is your personal pronoun. And I appreciate you sharing that information, because somebody just had a light bulb moment go off. All right, thank you for sharing that, Chris.
And moving forward to why we're here. So the title of this podcast is When Does It End? And so we talk about the HIV epidemic within America, and we talk about it with the focus on the Ending the HIV Epidemic in America initiative, or the EHE strategy. And so within this EHE initiative plan to end the HIV epidemic in America is broken down by 4 different pillars of prevention, diagnose, treatment, and responding. And with the goal to have a 75% reduction of new HIV infections by the year 2025 and a 90% reduction in new HIV infections by the year 2030. And so I think someone mentioned PrEP earlier, and for those of you that do not know what PrEP is, PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, and what it is that it is a medication that, when taken as prescribed by your physician, because it can be taken in multiple ways, as of late, it prevents a HIV diagnosis from happening. And then adversely, there's also a medication called PEP, which stands for post-exposure prophylaxis, which prevents you from acquiring an HIV infection after exposure, okay? And so the EHE initiative is upheld by the 4 pillars of prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and responding. And when I say prevention, I'm talking about things such as PrEP and PEP, right? Or those initiatives and those programmings, those places to where you can teach people buffet of options and make them aware of what tools they have in their box to prevent against the HIV transmission. When I talk about diagnosing, I am talking about our providers. I'm talking about HIV testing events. I'm talking about what do your intake forms look like when you are intaking with clients of trans experience? How are you diagnosing your patients? Are you doing it with a level of cultural competency and cultural agility, which is a term I made up myself. You have to be culturally agile. Diagnosing, right? So how are you diagnosing your clientele? What does that look like? How are you keeping up with the diagnosis? Or how are you managing it and leveraging their levels? What does that look like? And then responding. How are you responding to the needs of the community? How are you responding to the gaps and barriers within care? How are you responding to the issues that people face when they're not receiving holistic care? How you and your life and how your organization is responding, right? The reason why we are here is to talk about what does it mean to end the HIV epidemic. I mean, the name of our show is When Does It End? And so a big piece of that is the EHE initiative and its 4 pillars to prevent, treat, diagnose, and respond. And so before I ask our co-host, what does it mean to end the HIV epidemic with these 4 pillars, I wanted to make sure that I gave you an understanding. So first, with some examples. So first, prevention. Prevention can mean many of things, but for me, when I think of prevention, I think about the nuances that we have in PrEP, the medication that you can take once a day or however it's prescribed that could prevent you from acquiring an HIV infection. When I think about diagnosis, I think about how providers are treating their clientele. So I think about the innovation in HIV and STI testing, at-home testing kits. We found out through COVID, a lot of community-based organizations and clinics provided at-home testing kits for their clientele. So I think about telehealth and telemedicine and the innovations around that. When I talk about treatment, I'm talking about the ability to be able to have rapid start. So in the event that a client comes into our office and receives a positive HIV test, the time period to which we know that we can get them on medication in a soon and available way. So when they leave our offices, they know that they are supported and they know that they have options. And when in terms of responding, how are we engaging communities to respond to HIV? So we have to know how to leverage our community of partners to create these robust conversations so people who are from community and in community can have the access and the resources and the information that they need to prevent them from acquiring HIV. I want each of you to take a pillar and I want you to talk about the pillar through your own perspective. So Zapiris, I would like for you to explain what does prevention look like for the communities that you represent? Queen, what does treatment look like for the communities that you represent? Kayla, what does a response look like for the communities you represent? And Sebastian, what does diagnosing look like for the communities that you represent?
All right. So what prevention looks like for me, I come from a lot of gay subgroups, i.e. like the JSEC community, the drag community, the ballroom community, the gay community, everybody like that. And for me to just keep it very short and simple and sweet for prevention, the best tool that I feel is necessary is to educate by being an example, which means that, I'm on PrEP. I educate people on my experience with PrEP and taking PrEP and what it's done for me. I also make sure that, I live very much so by the things that I preach. I'm very much so a model figure for my community, you know what I'm saying? And because I touch so many different parts within our community, I'm able to get more educate in that form. It's just like kind of being a dance teacher. I feel as though learning how to dance is a visual thing, and sometimes educating people is a visual thing as well. So that's why I feel and I abide by the whole notion that you can educate by being an example.
Okay, and mine was treatment. So treatment starts with, how did you treat me? How was I greeted? Treatment starts right there. How did you treat me? Your initial interaction with me. How did that go? Was that treatment good? That determines whether I come back to get whatever medication or whatever I need from your facility. Treatment, some people think treatment automatically is a pill or some sort of something to assist me in whatever I need. Treatment starts with, how do you treat me initially? That's what treatment looks like for me. And then we can talk about the treatment as prescribed, whether it be mental health treatment, HIV treatment, because I think we don't talk about mental health, but I think that's a different discussion. But treatment starts with your initial interaction with me, and then we can proceed with whatever medication as prescribed if needed.
So response is a really good thing, because I know that it also highlights how, like you said, the treatment was, and how, you know, how moving forward, what the reaction is going to get, and how the reaction is going to moving forward out. You know, you get all your information out to the community. So if I go and I have an amazing outcome with the provider, and I'm getting all the respect that I need, then the outcome, the response that I give is going to, you know, I'm going to go tell, you know, this word of mouth. Like, I'm going to go tell my girls, like, hey, you better go over there and go get this, because, girl, they giving out gift cards, they giving out food, they out there, they giving out hormones. Girl, you ain't got to sit there and ask for Ashley hormones. Girl, you better go over there and go get your own. They got an amazing provider. You know, it's somebody that is for the girls, by the girls. You know, this word of mouth is the response that we all, in working in nonprofits, or people that work in this community, and that's what you want. You want a great response and a great outcome from the community that you're hitting, and particularly for trans community. Like I keep saying, a lot of things take patience. You're not going to always get it right then and there. You're not going to get it right. But baby, when you find that one golden girl or that one golden guy, baby, and they take off, you better be prepared, because all those gift cards that were sitting up in there that you've been sitting on for 6 months, it's about to evaporate in seconds, because the response was so good. You got good word of mouth, the intention, and you hit it right on the money, and now they coming. So you want a good response out of anything, even if from a person greeting you saying, hello, ma'am, how are you doing? Oh, I ain't even got to sit here and tell you all that. You know, I didn't have to sit here and break down a whole narrative where I was. You greeted me for what you saw. And so that, for me, I'm just saying, for me, by using pronouns, by using the right affirmation for a person, by presenting yourself, or just saying a great hello, you can get any type of response. And maybe that's the kind of, you know, look that you're looking for. So I know for the community that I help, in particularly for my Black trans women, are my Black trans men, because that's exactly who I work for, and that's exactly who I try to do my work for. I'm making sure that whatever response they give me, that they get back, that I know, whether it's good or bad, this is what's going to show how we reflect moving forward.
For me, diagnosis equals access, right? In order for me to get a diagnosis, I have to have access to an affirming provider that I feel safe enough with as a Black trans man to talk about my sexual behaviors that put me at risk. So if I don't have that, then the conversation is not being had in a way that's affirming for my health, right? So it's wrapped up in a bunch of different things. It's wrapped up in how we view masculinity, misogyny, all of those things, because trans men are not always and not often empowered with the language to go into a medical provider's office and talk about the ways they have sex and still walk out feeling very much so the same man that they felt like before they walked in, right? So those are sensitive conversations that we don't talk about. But when we want to start bringing more visibility to trans men, and again, I'm staying here because it's important, right? If we want to bring more visibility to trans men who are also people living with HIV and those that are at risk and what that looks like, we got to call a thing and talk about the uncomfortable subjects in order for those like me to feel like they're being seen, they're being heard, they're being cared about. So diagnosis to me is wrapped up in what type of access do I have to healthcare, and is it even an affirming space that I have access to? Because most of us, you know, some places we know, because word of mouth is 100% true. So we know the one or two things we got to do to go over here and get our hormones and be good. But that's not always a space that we feel safe enough to talk about the things that put our health at risk, or the things that we're doing that put our health at risk. So again, when we talk about a diagnosis, I have to have access to someone who I feel safe enough with to even get to a diagnosis, to even get to a conversation about diagnosis in my sexual behaviors.
Thank you. That was, Wow. Wow. The last person you'll probably hear from today is Chris, but I wanted to close out with one final question. And each of you, if you can, I want each of us to give the viewers, we all gave what our P is, but we want to give a P away. We want to give some P away. I'm 51 years old. I've been giving a lot of P away in my 51 years. But today, the P that I'm giving away for people is purpose. I want everybody that's paying attention today to understand that they have a purpose. Each of you, it first of all was purpose and ordained that you would be here today, but also that each of you fulfills a purpose. In church, we say in this earth, on this earth, and in this work. And that's really, really important. And we want every person who's paying attention today to understand that their journey to get to where they are and to continue to go wherever it is that they're going is purpose as well. All right. So you're going to give folks a P to take with some P to take with them, and also tell people how to get in touch with them. All right. In the same order. And then Chris is going to be the last voice that you hear today.
What I'm going to leave y'all with is y'all be and make sure y'all live in y'all pride. Pride is a very big thing. In our community, your pride can take you a long way. You know what I'm saying? Not in a negative tone, but your pride. Be very prideful about who you are, where you come from, where you're going in life. You know what I'm saying? That ties into your purpose. Your purpose is already ordained for you at birth. So walk in your purpose, live in your pride, be prideful. Y'all can find me on all social media platforms as Zaparis Ebony. That's Zaparis XA, spelled below PARIIS, Ebony EBONY. That's on Instagram, Facebook, all social media.
So I'm gonna go with purpose. Live full and die empty. Live full and die empty. That is the purpose that you should have, to live your full life and die empty. Do everything you wanted to do and more. And some of the stuff that you don't even want to do. Do it. You know, I am Queen Hatcher-Johnson. I'm employed at Positive Impact Health Center. My social media platform, Instagram, is at Queen Freedom Johnson, at Queen Freedom Johnson. My Facebook is Queen Hatcher Johnson. My LinkedIn is Queen Hatcher Johnson.
Oh, it's been so many P's. But what I will leave you with is, yeah, respect your pursuit of happiness. I just feel like that it's a journey. You're going on a journey. This is a wild ass ride. It's nothing that's, you don't have the answers to everything, and for you to sit there and think like, oh, you are going to have the answers for, no, you're not. And I think that that's what makes us so unique as human beings, because we are able to, if you don't succeed, try again, So I really encourage people to pursue whatever makes them happy, whatever it is, if that means from you just sitting on your ass sometimes, you don't want to do nothing, but you just want to sit there and be beautiful, or you want to sit in your authentic self and you want to strive to be the best, know the best, and fight for your very best. Just pursue whatever makes you happy and what does you, what's your worth, because you are the one that's going to be, have to live the life and be your authentic self. And I am Kayla Moore. Like I said, my email is kayla@oaklandlgbtqcenter.org. My Facebook is Kayla Moore, Facebook/Kayla Moore. My Instagram is Lips Like Peach. You can see me all, because I'm a Georgia peach, but I love it here. So if you ever see me around, please hit me up. I'm always available, and thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
I'll be really quick because my life goal is to one day be a life coach, so I could get on a rant and go all day long. But I wanted to just have a combination of everybody else's P's and add a little bit of my P to theirs as well. So I want to give away some pursuit of happiness, some passion, some pride, and some purpose, because if you do not stand for something, guess what's going to happen? you're gonna fall for something. Have some purpose, folks. I just echoing everybody else's sentiment for today. I'm gonna add on some of my P today P as well, and we're gonna hand it out.
Thank y'all for that. Before we close, I'm gonna give the people 2 P's, but they're gonna be 2 different P's, okay? So my first P goes for my amazing panelists, and this P is praise. Thank you for coming into space. I'm giving you your roses. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for not only educating our viewers, but educating me. It takes a lot to come onto a public platform and to talk about your own personal experience and to be authentically you. And so I want to praise each and every one of you all for just taking a chance on me and Tori to be a conduit of your energy and to be a conduit of your message in this moment. And then to my viewers, my PTL is to pledge. I want you all to make a pledge to yourself to accept your own P and accept the P's of others. And acknowledge your P might be different from someone else's P, but that does not make yours or theirs any less than or any better than. This has been another episode of When Does It End? This is part 1. We have a part 2 of Respect My P coming real soon. We look forward to communing with you. We look forward to making memories. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, hashtag, Google, put it on Jack, Grindr, Scrub, BGC, and to some of my favorite people on Christian Mingle. Put it out there because we're giving you hints and nuggets of wisdom that you do not want to miss out on that can better your life and everyone else's. Wishing you love, light, peace, hope, and happiness. Bye, y'all.